Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our first meeting in September for the Council of Temiskaming Shores. And just before we start the council meeting, I'd just like to make a comment that we lost a long-term resident of Hildeberg and Ty Palmer this last Sunday. So I know family and friends are definitely going to miss him and all the work that he did for the city in his lifetime there as well. So he'll be sadly missed. I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask the clerk for the roll call, please.
Good evening, Your Worship. All members are present.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 is review of revisions or deletions to the agenda. Has anybody got anything they need to add or delete from the agenda at this point? If not, we got a motion be resolved the City Council approves the agenda as printed. We're moving a second to Councilor Ferrier, second by Councilor MacArthur. All in favor? That is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature tonight?
Thank you. Mayor Kidd declared a conflict of pecuniary interest related to Section 19, closed session item E, related to the Integrity Commissioner, as he is the subject of an ongoing proceeding related to a decision of the Integrity Commissioner on a conflict of interest complaint.
Is there any other conflict of interest tonight? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 6 is review and adoption of the council minutes. And I got a motion be resolved that the City Council approves the following minutes as printed. A, the Committee of the Whole meeting that was held on August the 10th, 2021, and also B, the regular meeting of council that was held August 10th, 2021 as well. So we have a mover and a second for that motion. Councilor Jelly, second by Councilor Foley. All in favor? That is carried. Tonight we have some public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act, Municipal Act, and other statutes, and the first one is the potential disposition of land. The applicant is the Cobalt Camp Refinery Limited, a subsidiary of First Cobalt Corporation. And I'll get to my script here. So the purpose of this public meeting is to present to the council and the public details related to the proposed disposition of lands, being various parcels and unopened road allowances and lanes on Plan M147NB. And the meeting also allows the public to provide comments on the proposed disposition prior to council making a decision. I now declare this to be an open public meeting and request the clerk, Logan Belanger, to outline the proposals of the proposed disposition. Logan, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. So the city received an application from First Cobalt Corp. To purchase various parcels and unopened road allowances and lanes on Plan M147NB, which is the plan of subdivision for that subject area. Cobalt Camp Refinery Limited, or CCR, is a subsidiary of First Cobalt Corp., or FCC, and owns lands that host the refinery. First Cobalt, the First Cobalt Refinery is the only permitted primary cobalt refinery in North America, which is capable of producing battery-grade cobalt sulfate in the North American and European electric vehicle market. The primary focus will be the expansion of the refinery facility within its current footprint and the land owned by Cobalt Camp Refinery to increase the production rate of cobalt sulfate. In accordance with disposition of land bylaw at number 2015-160 for the disposition method, staff recommends a direct disposition to the applicant. For the determination of value, an appraisal is recommended, plus all costs associated with the sale, legal fees, as well as any potential surveys. For the public meeting notice, there was a notice published through the city bulletin, as well as on our website, and there was also notices that were mailed to any adjoining property owners. The image in front of you highlights the area of interest. So the highlighted parcels in black are owned by the City of Temiskaming Shores and are of interest by First Cobalt. And those highlighted in orange are the unopened road allowances that they're interested in purchasing as well. The map also highlights a hydro easement along the properties, as well as the refinery, which is located in Lorain Township. And it also highlights a wetland and water course, which we'll be discussing shortly. This map is an excerpt of the Cobalt Camp Refinery Limited water pipeline easement and abutting properties. So essentially what this depicts is the purple properties for D, F, and J are owned by First Cobalt, and the strips highlighted in blue and blocks A and C are also owned by First Cobalt. The application was circulated to staff with the following comments. From the Economic Development Officer, noted that this is a great project that will continue to expand in the community. From a planning perspective, the planner noted that the properties are designated rural area in the City of Temiskaming Shore's official plan, and there was also an area of wetland near the joining blocks of A, B, C, and D, which was indicated on Figure 2 in the diagram on the previous slide, as well as there was a mine hazard identified on the east of the wetland area and as well to the east of Block F, which is also known as Parcel 22261. And we'll show those in just a moment. The properties are largely zoned rural in the city zoning bylaw, except for the wetland area, which is zoned environmental protection, as well as the properties with the mine hazard being zoned in the rural hold 1. The watercourse was also identified north of the wetland, and the zoning of that watercourse and the land on either side of that watercourse is environmental protection. And she also noted that there's a hydro easement which crosses part of the lands over Block A and C. This map is just a picture of the zoning bylaw schedule, L5, to outline the approximate areas of the mining hazard constraints. And this map just shows the zoning designations, so you could see the rural hold, as well as the environmental protection areas. For the planning, further planning comments were that the list of permitted uses and the requirements in the identified designations and zones are indicated in the official plan and the zoning bylaw, a copy of which was also provided to the applicant. She noted that if development is proposed on the subject land in the future, that the proponent will need to consult with the city, and depending on the nature of the proposal, additional information or studies may be required. Should the sale be approved, deeming bylaws are also recommended or required to merge the properties on title. Public Works also noted that there were structures on the lands from previous mining activity, and so this aerial picture identifies the mining structures, which also link to the mining hazard constraints. Further consultation will occur with the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources, and Forestry regarding these structures as well. We have received a letter of support from Trent Mell, which is the president and CEO of First Cobalt Corp. It was attached and included in the council package. We have also received no formal written public comments as of the date of publication or today. For the next steps, which are conditional upon public input, is that we would seek additional information regarding the mine hazards and structure and whether the city has any obligations with those. We would also order an appraisal for the lands to determine the fair market value. We would determine if a survey to legally describe the subject road allowances are required. An adoption of a stop up and close bylaw for the properties and the road allowances would be required, following which an administrative report recommending the purchase and sale, as well as a deeming bylaw to merge the properties on title. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Logan. If there's any members of the public that want to speak to this issue, they can put their comments on the chat box and we'll read them very shortly. And if anybody in the public attending tonight wants to make any comments on this issue, they can come to the podium and make comments as well. And I'll now ask if there's any members of council that would like to talk to this issue or have any questions about. Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Kidd. Just for the city manager, none of this project falls under the Mining Act, correct?
I believe so. It does or doesn't, sorry?
It doesn't fall under the Mining Act, so the wetlands will still be protected under the Ministry of the Environment, correct? Yes. Okay, that was my only concern. Other than that, I scored it.
Okay, good. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Terrier?
Thanks, Your Worship. I guess my question is, with the expansion and the original numbers that were shared, with us, I'm just, wondering, is there more demand on the roadways going in and out? The road isn't great at the best of times, so I'm just trying to understand if there's an impact, for us as far as maintenance on that roadway.
I know in my last tour that we went through about 3 weeks ago, they were talking about constructing a couple of very, very large buildings down there, so there will be a lot of construction people going down there if they get around to doing the actual construction. There was a large, massive, big warehouse they were talking about building, as well as another building adjacent to the existing building, so there will be construction equipment for sure going down there, but I don't know as far as the feed inputs and all that. I assume there'll be lots of that coming in from Europe as well, and if they're getting the battery recycling, there'll be that kind of infrastructure coming in there as well. So, Chris, is there any other comments?
So I'm hoping Mitch is either on the line, is not here in the chamber. Mitch has been in contact with them about what the anticipated volume of traffic would be, so I don't know, Mitch, if you want to add anything at this point in time.
The discussion last year with First Cobalt at the time was it was going to be the equivalent of 1 or 2 triaxles per week on an ongoing basis. However, further to Councillor Ferrier's comments, it wouldn't hurt for us to follow up again with them to see if there's further development and whether or not there's going to be additional traffic on our roadway.
Yeah, especially, Mitch, if they're going to do all the construction down there as well, so.
I can follow up with them this week and follow up with council.
Okay. I believe Hayden Fazette is in the public tonight as well. Do you have any comments that you want to make, Hayden, or?
Yeah, I can address that. You want me to come up?
Sure, come up to the podium there and just introduce yourself there as well. And
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Hayden Fazette. I'm the site superintendent at First Cobalt. Just, I guess, to address your question, Jeff, you were kind of concerned about the traffic coming in and out. During construction, there will be more traffic than obviously than when we're actually up and running. But I don't know, Mitch, who was speaking there, we're probably looking at more like 1 to 2 triaxles per day of traffic. Just with the amount of reagents and products that are coming in and out, you'd be looking at, between 1 and 3 different truckloads per day.
okay.
If there's any other questions, I can answer while I'm here.
Any other questions coming in online there as well, Shelley? Nothing at this point, so, okay. Any other questions from council? No? Good, well, thank you very much for coming out there, Hayden, and appreciate that. So, I guess I'll now declare this public meeting to be closed, and that council will give due consideration to this application at a future meeting. And we'll move on to item number 7B, the potential disposition of land for Hazel and Maurice Plough. It's regarding the property on 2nd Street and the portion of 4th Street. And the applicant owns the land adjacent to 2nd Street and 4th Street on open road allowances and is seeking to acquire the subject properties to have contiguous property ownership for continued residential use. And we have the purpose of this public meeting is to present to council and the public details related to the proposed disposition of lands, being a portion of 2nd and a portion of 4th Street. And the meeting also allows the public to provide comments on the proposed disposition prior to council making a decision. So I now declare this to be an open public meeting and request the clerk, Logan Belanger, to outline the details of this proposed disposition.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. As Mayor Kidd mentioned, we did receive an application from Hazel and Maurice Plough for the purchase of a portion of 2nd Street and a portion of 4th Street. The applicant owns the adjacent parcels of land on the subject rural area. 115 Groon Street is currently vacant land, and 975202 Silver Center Road currently has a residential home. And they previously purchased the northern section of 4th Street in 2018 to create a driveway for frontage on an open municipal road. The applicants are seeking to purchase the parcel for contiguous ownership for continued residential use. This aerial image outlines the properties that are owned by the applicants, as well as outlines the portion of 2nd Street and the portion of 4th Street that they're interested in purchasing, as well as highlighted in blue is the previous section that was purchased in 2018 for the creation of a driveway that fronts on Silver Center Road. In this imagery, I'll also draw your attention to a line running vertical on the road allowance of 4th Street. This is a fence that's owned by the property owner to the east and pre-exists either owner. When a survey is completed, it would essentially determine whether the fence is on road allowance. The city sought a legal opinion and may be sold on an as-is, where-is basis. The request was also discussed at the Corporate Services Committee meeting on July 28th, and the committee supported the proposed disposition without the removal of the fence if it's found to be on the property. And then the applicant could then seek their own advice if they wish to have that moved in the future. In accordance with the Disposition of Land Bylaw 2015-160, for the disposal method, staff recommends a direct disposition to the applicants. For the determination of value, as previous sales of road allowances, a recommended base price of $500 plus all associated costs, which include legal and surveying fees, and that would be per laneway. The public meeting notice, we did issue a notice via the community bulletin as well as on the website. Notice was mailed to the neighboring property owners. The application was circulated to staff, and the following comments were received from the planner. The subject property is designated rural area in the City of Temiskaming Shores official plan and zoned rural and environmental protection in the City of Temiskaming Shores bylaw. The EP zone applies to the Mill Creek and the surrounding land. Based on the proposed uses of the land, the planning department has no concerns, but recommended that a deeming bylaw be applied for to merge the properties. She noted that both 115 Groom Drive as well as the 975202 Silver Center Road are currently in the same ownership. Therefore, passing a deeming bylaw for all those lots, which includes both properties, would merge both properties to each other. So noted that an approval of consent to sever would be required to separate them in the future. In this case, the applicants would be notified that should be notified that prior to any future development on either property, approval of a deeming bylaw would be required. No formal comments, public comments were received as of the date the agenda was published, and I have not received any further comments as of today. No further comments were received from staff and are supportive of the request. The next steps, which would be conditional on public input, would be the ordering of a survey to legally describe the portion of the subject laneways, the adoption of a stop-up and close bylaw for the portion of the laneways, a deeming bylaw, as well as an administrative report recommending a purchase and sale agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's any members of the public present tonight that would like to comment on this, you can come to the podium and make comments at this point. And if you want to add something to the chat box, you can certainly do that, and we'll read those comments out as well. So, are there any comments and questions from council tonight on this? Councillor Jelly?
Yeah, I have, just to ensure that I heard correctly, you were saying we don't know if that fence is on which property yet until a survey is completed?
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. So we did have Jeremy go out, and he does believe that the fence is located or running down the center of the road allowance, but we can't say that for certain until a survey is completed. But there is a good opportunity that that fence is located on the road allowance.
Okay, as long as I understood that, and are we regulating that, or did you say that would be up to two property owners to decide about the fence? My concern is I don't want somebody coming back to council in 2 or 3 months and saying they're on my property and they're not moving, that type of thing. I don't suspect that would happen, but you don't know. Might be something that wants to be spelled out very clearly. Just a minor concern. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? No comments or Shelley on the chat line? Nothing? So, okay. I guess I'll now declare this public meeting to be closed, and the council... Oh, sorry. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is Daisy Hill. My husband's also here, and we're requesting the allowance down from 4th. You have a very good concern, Councillor Dudley, in regards to a concern that we may have that that fence, the neighbor close to us, may want it, okay? We have a problem bringing it forward. However, what we wish is if it does not get approved today, if the city could, or the council, we would like to bring forth that you maintain that 4th Street as city street and have it cleaned up because it is a lot of pollution that's on that street right now, and that's one of the reasons why we are wishing to have that full portion from the top to the bottom. That's my request. That's everything. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So, any other comments tonight at all? So, okay, I'll now declare this public meeting to be closed, and council will give due consideration to this application as well very shortly. So, moving on to our actual question and answer period. Is anybody in the public or on the chat line any questions of council at this point on any other issue? So, hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the two major agenda items, or two presentations tonight. So we have Lynn LaBelle, as well as her entourage from the Housing and Services Manager for the District District Social Services Administrative Board, and regarding the Community Homelessness Prevention Initiative. And I'll ask you to come and make your presentation and introduce your other members of your organization as well. So who's making the presentation, Lynn or Kelly or Mark? So. Tag team.
We sent it with a video clip to Brad Player.
I believe we had that, eh? That's Northern College. You don't want the one up above that, if you don't mind.
Oh, sorry.
The back, yeah.
My apologies.
That's the video. You want it played now, or you want a few comments first, or?
Go ahead.
You can take your mask off, too. We don't mind your social distance there.
Hello, thanks for calling the Jefferson Homeless Shelter. Please leave a detailed message and we will return your call.
Yes, hi. I see that you're putting up a shelter in my neighborhood. I'm quite distressed about this.
Yes, hello. I just got a notice about the new shelter going into my neighborhood, and I think it's an awful idea.
I have a business, and I don't appreciate having a homeless shelter put up in my neighborhood. It's going to affect my business. It's going to affect my livelihood.
How did you possibly get the permission to ruin a neighborhood by putting a homeless shelter right here?
There must be some other place where a homeless shelter could be opened up.
Let's move them somewhere down south or up north.
I don't know what this is going to do to the real estate value. I'm a very tolerant person, but this just really is going over the edge.
Come on. You know that these are all drug addicts and drunks. You're ruining a perfect neighborhood is absolutely absurd.
Thank you for watching that video. We wanted to just set the tone for our conversation today. Good evening, Mayor Carmen Kidd, City Councilors. My name is Mark Stewart. I'm the Director of Client Services with Temiskaming DSAB. I'd like to share with you tonight a briefing on the homeless issue in our district from our organization's perspective. Our DSAB is the service manager for the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing's Community Homeless Prevention Initiative. It's commonly known by its acronym CHPI, or CHIPI. The two objectives of this program are to first assist the homeless in obtaining and retaining housing, and this will be the area that we'll focus on tonight, and second, to assist individuals and families who are at risk of becoming homeless to remain in their homes. So the current situation in Temiskaming, from January through July this year, our CHPI program assisted 48 homeless individuals and families. These are cases that requested help themselves or referred to us as an agency. So please note that these figures do not represent the entire homeless issue in the district as a whole. I'm going to give you some numbers and background information on these cases. 6 cases were victims of domestic violence, for which a men's shelter does not exist. 17 cases were victims of a home disaster, such as a fire, a flood, a lack of essential services that made their home unlivable. These people generally have no recourse, insurance, or the financial assets to assist them.
4 individuals were released from incarceration. In my experience, these usually occur on a Friday afternoon with little notice, and local law enforcement is often left to resolve this matter on their own. They'll sometimes connect with our team if time permits and during our operating hours. 12 cases were forced from their housing that was not their own. They were either staying with a spouse or a partner, a family, a friends, or an antisocial environment. When the relationship broke down, they were asked to leave. 7 people were street homeless, living in a tent or in a vehicle. And lastly, 2 were released from the hospital with having no prearranged shelter arrangement. Our homeless are citizens in our communities. They're someone's child or parent. They're a student, a senior citizen, a military veteran, someone in poverty with insufficient income to meet the cost of housing, someone who lacks the essential life and coping skills that you and I have and become overwhelmed with the problem as it becomes a crisis and goes past the point of repair. There's someone who lacks the support of another person or advocate. They're also someone with a mental or physical disability without proper care and medication. It's also someone who, through a series of unexpected circumstances, may be the face you see in a mirror. So the current issue, without an operational shelter in our district, there's a high and probable risk the person will be without a safe space for at least 1 to 3 nights. Unfortunately, our CHPI program is limited to weekday services between the hours of 8:30 and 4:30. As you know, crisis doesn't care about a schedule. For CHPI purposes, a homeless shelter provides an immediate countermeasure and fills the gap to solve that immediate homeless issue until our team can secure a temporary or long-term home for these individuals. The Zach's Crib shelter, when operational, will be a solution that's available every night. People will be welcome to that facility. They'll have a warm, safe place to sleep. No worry of violence towards them. They can wash themselves, clean hot water, change into fresh clothes, do some laundry, have a proper meal, and most importantly, gain a sense of belonging and dignity. So based on our conversations with the Zach's Crib team, they'll have a qualified staff oversight, standard operating procedures, and enforced regulations. Furthermore, they'll have a direct connection with community services, such as social assistance, employment supports, housing support, health care, which also includes Indigenous health and wellness organizations. As a service manager, the Zach's Crib Shelter Plan meets the provincial criteria for an emergency shelter and funding. Our DSAB supports the Zach's Crib program and will continue to influence the planning and operations. This shelter can also act as a hub to connect someone back to our communities with the supports and services to move them from being homeless to someone with a home to call their own. For those of you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a person's home is a foundation from where further needs are developed and realized. And without it, they'll never rise from it. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. Questions from council? I appreciate Doug for your work with DSAB there and bringing them.
No, I think if we can, Your Worship, we'll let Lynn do her portion too, and then thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting us. So my name is Lynn LaBelle. I'm the Housing Services Manager at the DSAB. So the need for a non-gender specific shelter in Temiskaming was identified in our 10-year Housing and Homelessness Plan in 2014. Since that date, the DSAB has been searching for opportunities to build shelters to offer local individuals a safe alternative when they do not have permanent housing. The creation of Zach's Crib organization provided an opportunity for a partnership with the DSAB to meet the needs of individuals experiencing homelessness in our communities. This project is about providing a safe shelter option for residents of Temiskaming Shores and surrounding areas, keeping them off the streets and protecting them from harsh Northern Ontario weather. The DSAB has been fortunate to have support of our partners in other districts who have expertise and experience in the development of similar shelters. We have been working with our partners in the development of Zach's Crib facility and intend to continue to proceed with the project with their support. So some details of Zach's Crib involve that there will be 10 safe beds. To access the facility, clients will have to be screened and will have to adhere to strict rules requirements. The hours of operation are from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. It's just a place for them to rest their head. It will be a dry facility. Use of substances will be prohibited. There will be trained staff and volunteers on site. There will be full security video surveillance inside and outside of the facility. A direct line to the OPP will be activated with the panic button should the need arise. A privacy fence separating the adjacent property will be erected for privacy. And clients will not be permitted to come and go once they check into the facility. It's also important to note that it will be staffed with very well-trained and experienced volunteers and staff. Individuals staying in the facility will also have access to our community partner agencies to access the supports they require to get back on their feet. The facility will be overseen with the board of directors for financial and governance oversight and through the enforcement of policies and procedures. The DSAB is the owner of the building and will be involved in every step of development and operation of the facility. In conclusion, I wanted to share with you that I did recently have a conversation with a homeless individual sitting outside the DSAB office on a Monday morning. During our chat, he shared that he was in fact born and raised in this area. He was a father of 2 children, and because of misfortune, this individual had no shelter. Referring him to Zach's crib would have been the right thing for us to do. Unfortunately, the facility is not ready. But in the future, that's what we could do for a homeless individual. So having said that, homeless affects our local community, and you can help be part of the solution. I invite all of you to come and visit the facility. I will gladly give you a tour and show you the plans so you can get a first glance at what it's going to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. We've talked many times, but I've never met you, so I'm glad you came tonight, so that's great. Thank you. Other comments and questions? Councilor MacArthur.
Yes, I was wondering if you could answer a question, and that is, when I first heard about Zach's crib, I thought this was going to be just for men. We do have a resource in Hillbury for ladies, women, and at first we were told, and I understood it was just for men. Now I understand it can be for couples.
That's correct. So the plan in the facility will have divided sleeping pods, so should there be males and females, they will be kept separate, and there will be non-gender bathrooms.
Other comments, questions? Councilor Ferrier?
Thanks, Your Worship. And Lynn, thanks for the presentation tonight. And I'll tell you, I think it's fantastic to hear that DSAB is in partnership with Zach's Crib. I think there was, Zach's Crib did give a presentation to Mayor and Council, a number of months back, and there wasn't a lot of answers to some of the questions. And I think that, clearly there is a need, and clearly it's really nice to hear the expertise is going to be there to support, to ensure that this facility remains open for years to come. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Whalen?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Kidd. Thanks for the presentation. Excuse me, it's nice to put a face to the name sometimes, so thanks for coming out. I don't have a question. I wanted to make a comment that I appreciate that in your presentation you mentioned mental health and addiction, because too often we try to deal with one problem without realizing that this problem is created by other problems. And I think we have to start dealing with them more collectively, so I appreciate that.
You're absolutely right.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yeah, thanks so much for the presentation, Mark and Lynn. One thing I want to make sure that media picks up on the stats that were provided tonight, Mark, because oftentimes, there's a different thought pattern that we think that, it's just a certain type of individual that falls under the cracks. But this could be any one of our children, our youth, our neighbors, our friends. It could happen to any one of us. And I think this is commendable that you've continued to move forward despite the challenges with COVID and public perception and other challenges. You know, we don't want this in our neighborhood, but if it was our own, we would expect that help. And these are our own. And we need to remember that, so thank you for this presentation. I just want to make sure those stats get out there. It's so important that the public hears that, change that perception.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really want to thank Mark and Lynn there. I mean, the more we can get this information out in the press and in the public and answer people's questions and actually outline what the benefits are, I think the better off of the whole community will be, and I think it's going to be very positive for the whole community there, so thank you very much. Do you have a comment, Doug? Or?
Just a quick one. Thanks for coming. We've had discussions about this amongst ourselves before, and certainly homelessness isn't anything that's new to the Tri-Town area, so to speak. I'll go back a few years when I policed, and before there was very stringent rules and regulations on using cells. I used to open my cells up to homeless people who were going through the area or someone on the street that didn't have a place to stay. You take them in, give them a bed, give them a warm meal in the morning, and it did give them a sense of belonging, and they were very thankful. So this is an excellent project. I did make the statement at the one meeting when they were here from Zach's crib, and people were worried about people running the streets all night. Zach's crib's not going to stop the street runners. That's not what it's for. It's to help the homeless people. So I don't think there's a correlation between homelessness and street runners, to be honest with you. So, and as you so well pointed out tonight, we're hooked up with other places where people will come in and they can get some help, and it might just be the first day of the rest of their life, or I guess the first night of the rest of their life. So I truly believe we need it and support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming down. That's been great. Thank you very much. We'll sanitize the podium and the microphone, and we'll bring up our next presentation. And so we're extremely pleased to have Dr. Penner here tonight, as well as board members, Doug Walsh, and Tammy is also here from the Hilleberg campus. So got some great news and some great updates on what's happening for Northern College here in our Hilleberg campus. So welcome, Dr. Penner.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor and Council. It's really a pleasure to be here today. And I do have some lots of good news, and I just want to comment on the previous presentation. And I am so pleased that this is so well received, because these are the kinds of things that make such a difference to our communities and to our economic development. And I'm very, very much about social justice, and I think that's wonderful to get that kind of support for those kinds of initiatives. So hats off to Lynn and Mark, but they left already. So anyway, tonight I'm here to give you a bit of an update on Northern College and how we're doing. I've now been in the role for a little over a year. The buildings are still standing. That's my measure of adequacy, and as long as I keep doing that, Doug keeps me employed, so that's great. I also, we're building on a 109-year legacy of the Haleyberry School of Mines. Northern College has been a constant presence in this area throughout the institution's history for 54 years, and that's really quite remarkable that it's been going on that long. So as I said, I've been in for a little over a year. I moved into the role from Vice President Academic, and it really has been a very interesting year, very challenging year. As someone said to me, are you crazy to take on this role during COVID? But it's really important that we have continuity and that the institution moves forward. So that was not the scary part, really. But with me today, as the Mayor said, we have Doug Walsh, who is the chairman of our board, and a wonderful chairman he is. We also have Tammy Mackey, who's our campus manager. And I also commandeered Pat Hamilton, who has just recently joined our Board of Governors. She's representing faculty, so she agreed to come tonight as well. So thank you to them for coming, and they are part of our community as well. So at Northern College, we believe in empowerment through learning, and we believe that it can build a better world. We're committed to building community like yours across the North through partnerships and excellence in education. And moving forward, here's some of the things on the left-hand side of your screen, some of the things that we're going to be building on over the next year. Digital transformation is a key element. We want to develop seamless, frictionless processes so that 1 and 2 clicks get you where you want to go, whether you're a student looking for a program, whether you're an employee looking for information on your pension, or whether you are a faculty person and you've got to upload some new programming to teach. So we're going to be looking at digital transformation. And I actually had an article published today just on that, so we're very pleased that some of the things that we're we're moving forward on are being picked up across North America. Equity, diversity, and inclusion. Last year I launched a task force on that. It's called the President's Task Force on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion because, again, I believe very strongly in social justice. And quite frankly, I didn't believe we were doing enough. We were doing what we could, but we had to look at that through a new lens. And so we've developed a cross-sectional committee in the college, and we have now defined what we believe the ideal college should look like. We've worked very closely with our Indigenous Council for indigenization, and we hope to roll out, we are now measuring against that ideal college to see where are the gaps and what do we still need to do to assure equity, diversity, and inclusion, as well as keeping the indigenization as a very front priority for us. We have talent pipelines we've signed with a number of industries in the community, and talent pipelines are about linking industry to students, to education, to alumni, so that we can provide that full pathway for someone going through, for both industry looking for employees and for students looking for work. Micro-credentials are something you're going to hear a lot about. This is something that we've always done, but it was never called that. And it's taken on a new energy, I think, in the system. You'll probably be hearing some announcements out of the ministry about what they're funding and what they're helping. And micro-credentials are small incremental skills that we can teach to, give credit for, and ladder to further credentials. In the past, we did this as continuing education. Now we're making it more formal and applying quality assurance processes to it so that people can keep track of their learning all their life and carry it around like you'd carry around luggage or baggage. It's always there with you. You can apply it to the jobs you want. And some of the recent studies have shown that micro-credentials, that doing a specific skill to promote yourself within the workplace, add thousands of dollars and even hundreds of thousands of dollars over your working life in terms of your income. So they're well worth the investment. We're broadening our recruitment efforts, and you'll see in a minute how that's working. And we're also focusing on data-driven decision-making. We're going to be launching more integrated data analysis into how we make decisions, so we're not just looking at numbers of students, we'll be looking at space utilization, we'll be looking at overall economic value. And I'm a very data-driven person, so I get excited about that. Well, not a lot of people do, but I get excited about it. The challenges in this past year, COVID-19 obviously has been a challenge for everyone. We have a declining regional population, which is why international enrollment is so important to us, and attracting students from other areas of the province too, also very important, and also from other areas of the country. We have evolving student needs, and I have to say we have absolutely the best student advisors in the entire system. They are really on top of what students need. They're very quick to help. And we have some really cutting-edge supports in terms of mental health initiatives and supports for students. Strategic mandate agreements were implemented by the province. I believe 2014 was the first time. In 2019, they implemented a strategic mandate agreement that was tied to funding. The province has not enforced the funding piece of it because of COVID. So the fact that they do look at our metrics, they do see if we've measured up to them, but they are not deducting funding on the basis of that if we have not met our goals because of COVID. So we're still in that process. It is a reasonable process, and we're very clear on what our measures are to be and how we are to achieve them. But actually, one of the biggest challenges that I find as president is speed to market when it comes to producing products, and the products being educational products. We have a lot of restrictions, we have a lot of ministerial directives that we have to adhere to, so we are trying to find ways to become faster to market, because if someone says to me today, boy, we need this type of career, X, Y, Z, if I've never heard of it before, it's going to be at least 2 years before I can offer it, given all of the hoops we have to jump through to get there. So we want to find a way to have better speed to market, and we think that micro-credentials might be the way that we can do that. So it's not something that is wrong with the system, but it is something that is laborious within the system. And all colleges struggle with that. At a glance, the Haileybury campus, total student enrollment. Now, I will apologize, we don't have the 2020 data in yet. One of the fallouts of COVID has been a delay in the ministry verifying our actual audited numbers. We're just falling behind on that, so we don't have that in there. So what we've given you is really what you saw last year, and the next slide as well is really what you saw last year. Day 10 of this year, we'll have this year's numbers in officially, but until the reports are audited by the ministry, we don't have we know what the numbers are, but they haven't been verified as being accurate. So unfortunately, we can't present you with those. But again, you can see, and this is no surprise to the people from this area, the veterinary sciences is a key pillar of this campus. Next to that would be business. Next to that would be health sciences and emergency services. Next to that would be the tech and trades and so on and so forth. And the good news is we are seeing a lot of growth. We had a 12% increase in applications. This is just to the Haileybury campus. This is not the other campuses, just to the Haileybury campuses. We had a 13% increase in offers, and we had a 7% increase in confirmations. Now, just to put that into context, in the system, there is only one other school that had a positive increase. The rest were negatives. So we've been doing quite well, and we're very, very pleased with that record. We have a new marketing team, a new recruitment team, and they're just doing a great job. So, future focused, we're returning to on-site learning, and I want to clarify that is not traditional face-to-face every single day with every program. There are some nuances there. We are complying with all the ministry directives, which are to increase on-site as much as possible. We still have some restrictions on spacing, personal protective equipment, and social distancing. So in actual fact, each program is slightly different as to how much on-site there is. And if you're interested in looking at the detail, our deans and our VP academic have a continuity of education plan, which is posted on our website. You can go program by program and see what the backup plans are and how we intend to deliver. But safe campuses is a big priority. Our campuses are still limited to the public. You can't just walk in just to walk through. We're still limited in that respect, and we will stay limited until we reach stage 4 or stage 5 in this recovery. But we still have very dynamic learning. We are going through the digital transformation, and we have a very modern approach to education, which interestingly enough, as we went through COVID, we were doing all along, and we actually helped some other colleges get used to some of the things we've been doing for the last 20 years. So it was really an interesting experience for us. We have launched a new strategic plan as of January 2021, and our vision is empowerment through learning to build a better world. Our mission is building community across the North through partnerships and excellence in education. And our motto is proud to be North, proud to be Northern. And we try and repeat that every day. Our points of focus within our strategic plan: Indigenous education and empowerment. We are very much committed to decolonization processes where they're applicable. Innovative approaches to access, and we've been doing so many things that are innovative already, and we had to stop and take a break and say, you know what, we are very innovative as a college, we just have to do more of it. And invigorating Northern experiences. We are really celebrating the North and what the North does and is, and that's going to become a key part of our marketing focus. We're on solid financial footing, very solid. We had a record surplus last year, which you'll find out in a minute how we're funneling it back. We actually had one of the biggest surpluses in the province, in the system, and we have a sustainable future right now. My job as president is to look 10 years into the future, so we might be sustainable now, but that's not good enough. We have to look at what's going to happen further down the road. So it's not just spend, spend, spend. It's also about investment. It's also about our best bang for our buck. And putting the North in Northern, which we really have a lot of fun doing. So here's something else I'd like to share publicly, and we've had this out in a couple of press releases. We are the only college in Ontario that can say the following 3 things. We had no outbreaks at Northern. We had no COVID-19 related program closures. We had no permanent layoffs due to COVID. We are the only college in the system that can say all 3, and we're pretty proud of that trifecta. And on top of that, we still had 728 graduates in the spring of 2021. So we're very pleased with that record. We're not going to sit on our laurels. We're going to continue to build on that because we take health and safety very seriously. But we really value our staff. We really value our communities. And there was a lot of consultation in that process in order to maintain that we didn't close programs, we didn't lay people off. And I have wonderful faculty and wonderful staff, and they made it all possible. So building on success, as I said, a solid financial footing, a sustainable future, putting the North in Northern. And here we are growing the Northern College family, and you'll see you've got a little folder about our alumni. We've done some new branding, and our alumni growth is really quite substantive. We have some alumni packages through Toronto Dominion Insurance, different things, and they actually came to us and they told us we had a 400% increase in uptake compared to other alumni associations, so could they offer some more things to our alumni? We said, great, offer whatever you want, we're happy to promote it. There's new scholarships, bursary and awards application portal, and our former president, Dr. Fred Gibbons, is launching a new bursary in his name, and so we'll have that launched in probably the spring. Very exciting because it's going to be quite a good, healthy bursary. We've had a rebrand of the alumni and the foundation as well as the college, and we spent a lot of time aligning initiatives and bringing things under more of a central approach. Branding, we have just gone through a branding exercise. We are representing the North. We're carrying in our communications. We are really promoting the wilderness, the lifestyle, the lakes, the trees, all the wonderful things about the North, and at the same time inspiring excellence. And we see that every day in the things that our staff and our faculty do for us. Investment. Okay, so we had a surplus. It was a really good surplus last year. We are investing back into our infrastructure. So the Haley Berry Vet Sciences addition is moving ahead. It should have been a little bit further than it is right now, and that's due to COVID and our ability to get plans in place. But we are investing $1.2 million into that. The tender goes out late November, and it'll be issued by January. Construction to begin in 2022, whether that's before the end of fiscal year or after is still, it depends really much on the tender. And I'd also like to outline we're investing $100,000 just in window replacements. Not exciting, but still infrastructure that's very, very important for us to be paying attention to. And educating excellence. We are identifying future in-demand career areas. And we're doing a great job of that. We're creating, it says here, 8 new programs. I want to qualify that. There's 8 distinct areas we are looking at creating programs in. These will not happen overnight. Remember, I said there's a bit of a runway to that. But just to give you an idea of some of the ways we're going, we do plan to expand on our environmental sciences that we have, and we want to tie our Haley Berry Schools of Mine branding to that, because with our mining boom in the region, there's a lot of environmental issues that need to be addressed, and other colleges aren't necessarily doing it. So we want to get in on that. We are looking at some new fields, at least they're new to me, sports analytics and data processing applied to sports. We're looking at auto body work and truck and coach repair. We're also expanding on computer programming and possibly cybersecurity. That's still a tentative where we can go with that. So there's an awful lot that we have in the queue to build on. We have 2 new deans that have moved into the organization, both from other colleges, and so they're bringing new ideas and new thoughts to the process, and that's really important. Our computer science option right now is we've got a wonderful partnership with Algonquin, and we've been able to really build on what they're doing. We also are launching a degree, 3-year degree, jointly with the University of Algoma in computer sciences. So you come out of that, you have a diploma in computer sciences from Northern College, and you have a degree from the University of Algoma. And that was a very quick run-through. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has. I know I talk very fast. I'm very passionate about what I do. I love the college. I love the college world. And I'm really excited about some of the things that we're doing. And I also have a wonderful board chair, so let's just say that while we're still here and he's in the room.
Like a familiar face.
A familiar face, yes.
Councilor MacArthur.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. I had the privilege several years ago of sitting on a business committee. We had our meetings in Timmins, and I can tell you in the mid to late 90s, there was talk or thought at the Kirkland Lake campus and maybe Haleyberry campus would be closing because of, the number of people coming to the college. But I want to tell you what a turnaround in the early 2000s and on, and it's the people that you hire and the people that sit on, your staff and yourself. That's why Northern College is back and to stay.
Yeah. And just to build on that, it is all about the team we're putting together. They're very creative, they're very innovative. And I've just got a new position that will be starting October 1st, Chief Information Officer. And we actually stole from Mohawk College on that one. And this is somebody who wanted to come back to this region, grew up here, wants to come back. Very talented young person. Mohawk's not speaking to me right now, but we'll get past that. I like to say I steal the best.
Other comments, questions? Councillor Whelan?
Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation, and congratulations on your role. It's the first time you've been here since you took over, so congratulations. And congratulations on the COVID success too, as well. Tammy's left, but everybody was involved in that, so it's very important. You did mention economic development in almost your first sentence, and I think that's something we have to be more aware of, is including not only the faculty, but the students that are drawn to the area. I often think, and I tease Mayor Peary, that the best road sign he has is where the Northern College is located on the road into Timmins. For building the future, that's the...
And Tammy and I were just talking about that. She's going back and she's doing her master's degree, and we were talking about some of the programs she's taking. We were talking about the role, the tight link between colleges, economic development, and industry. I have a slide presentation I'm doing to our board next week, and I've in the slideshow, I have 3 slides, and one says, we're here for students, we're here for industries, we're here for communities. Those are our 3 key areas. Those are our 3 stakeholders, major stakeholders. And the link is so well defined, and it seems to be that the link is more obvious in times where they're very bad, and then in times where they're very good. And in between, people lose sight of that. Right now, we're in a very good time. Bad for certain areas, but very good for colleges. And it is an extremely tight team. My postdoc, I did some advanced analytics in labor force development, particularly related to educational policy, and it stands me in good stead on a lot of these issues. It really is helpful to look at it from that perspective.
Councillor Ferrier?
Thanks, Your Worship, and thanks so much for the presentation. And congratulations on the strategic plan. I know the last time you were here presenting, what you were doing, I think that's awesome, and I think it's a clear indication of what's driving the success, for Northern College. Really nice to see the expansion of some of the programs, because when we look at some of the industries that are really struggling to attract resources, I think the more and more we can develop some of those solutions within our community, it's just that much easier to attract.
And Councillor LaFeria, that's where the micro-credentials come in too, because those are shorter term, much more tailored badges, projects, certificates, whatever you want to call them, that can help the industry get through to the next level, because we have a lot of people who have skills, but the skills don't match the jobs, and then we have a lot of people who don't have skills and their job needs certain skills. So there's a lot to be done, and it's a very interesting mosaic. It's not your typical linear trajectory that traditional learning was, where you went from high school, you went to a post-secondary institution, you went out and you worked, that was the end of the story. Now it's more of a labyrinth, and you're going to be going back and forth all the time till you get everything you need, and it'll never end. There'll constantly need to be additions to it.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Councillor Hewitt?
Yeah, thanks so much for the presentation. Keep up the good work. One of the items that you mentioned as to some of the challenges in the future was speed to market and some of the labor challenges. Can you share with Council perhaps some items that the Council could perhaps assist with moving forward? So that's what I want to hear. Some of the solutions, because I often see newcomers all the time coming to our area, and I think we're at a prime time to really work together to see this move forward.
Absolutely, and I do know, that, not related to speed to market, but I do know that right now one of our crunches is housing for our students. We've had a lot of the rental places are no longer available for renting. For the first time ever, our residence is absolutely full with a waiting list. But I was talking to Tammy tonight over dinner about what are some things we can do to help make that available. So if anyone knows of any opportunities for rental or boarding or that type of thing, just let Tammy know, and we'll try and do some matchmaking there to help out with that. But on the other side of things, where we're going with this, and I know I've come to Carmen before and said, I need a letter of support for this or for that. Always very good. Mayor Kidd, thank you. Always very good to do that. But we do have some exciting opportunities on how we can put things together. I go back to micro-credentials, and I describe them as, think of Legos that your kids used to play with. You know how you put one Lego piece and it always fits another Lego piece, which fits another, and you could have 3 pieces that look very different from 3 pieces somebody else plays with. That's what we have to do with micro-credentials. We have to make them fit so that they can lock into any other piece that the person wants to take. And it all adds up to something. So that at the end of the day, I might have a very, very different program than Joe sitting next to me, but I've got what I need to stay employed and what my employer needs to keep me there. So there's going to be a lot, and we'll be looking probably for a letter of support in a couple of months on some activities we're lobbying with the government for some expansion and that type of thing. So, and it'll be across the region, it won't just be in one area. So, yeah, no, glad to know. I'll keep that written down, Patricia. Councillor Hugh.
Councillor Jelly?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to, I won't go over things you've said, but you just, I feel that Northern is so very well positioned to be in the north, and every day we hear about Timmins are going to need 800 miners.
Yeah.
We just had a presentation tonight or a thing with First Cobalt.
Yeah.
They're expanding, and you know, it kind of brings you back to when the School of Mines started. So all that is still out there.
Yeah.
And if you take a look at even just the footprint of the Halebury campus over the years, took over the school, you know, have residents there now, it's growing, and that is going to draw people to Northern Ontario, and that's what we need.
And just take a look at some of the things, like it was really interesting to listen to what First Cobalt was doing. We have launched through our Northern Training Division a battery electric vehicle technician program. That is going to be one of the busiest programs that we roll into post-secondary once we get to the point we can roll it into post-secondary. And the impact of that, we have heavy-duty equipment, okay? But now you introduce electric vehicle into that, and you've got a whole different type of training program where they need as much in computer sciences as they do about heavy-duty equipment. So we are looking at very different type of programming, and to keep up with it is important. One of the things that we are lobbying the government for is to be allowed to give 3-year degrees. We're a bit of a ways out from that, but I already have it lined up. Where would we get, which degrees will we offer if we can offer 3-year degrees? Which are our priority areas? And just exactly that. And who would, you know, that we're training for things now that 5 years ago we hadn't even heard of, like, you know, data analytics for sports, you know, like we just didn't think about those things. We kind of stayed with bread and butter, but it's really important that we're doing what the industry needs in the region.
Good. Councillor Jelly again?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago I seen, you know, ads looking for coach mechanics, and you alluded to that earlier. So, you know, that's what has to happen.
It's what has to
in the whole
happen.
area.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Try and get an auto body dent hammered out of your car in this region, you know? Like, it's important. We got to do that. Yeah, we put in a fairly significant application to the Ministry of Labour and Trades on that. We haven't yet heard if we've gotten it yet, but it's really important. So I have an excellent team. They're always out there pounding the bushes on what do people need. We can't always do everything that's needed, but where we can, we certainly will.
Well, just a couple of comments I want to make. I mean, it's, I think that investment in the residents has been a great thing. It's actually drawn a lot more students in. The investment in Northern College, I think Northern College is the reason why we're now seeing the influx of people coming to this area, one of the reasons coming in this area. And I mean, it's all great for the whole region there, and I really appreciate all your work and the board of directors. And Doug is going to have the last word.
The last word is, now you know why she was selected as our incoming president. Wind her up, let her go. And I say, okay, our 9 o'clock meeting that started at 8:30 is now 9:30. It's time that I have to get back to work.
Well, no, I appreciate you coming down. It's been great.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate being here, and I look forward to the next time we visit, and I look forward to when we break ground on our bed expansions. We'll have you all in for a celebration.
Anything that I can do or a council can do there, let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Moving on to item number 10, the communications. 10A is a letter from Kelly Mimi, resident, regarding a request to purchase municipal land that was received on August the 13th, and that's been referred to the municipal clerk to process in accordance with the city's disposition of land bylaw. 10B is a letter from Ruby Meeker, a request to rescind the support for the closure of Ontario gas plants, our motion 2021-005, adopted at the January 5th, 2021 regular meeting. That's received for our information. 10C is a letter from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, regarding the AMO policy update, draft resolution for municipal recognition of the September 30th date as National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, and there's a motion to be presented under new business for that tonight. 10D is a letter from Kelly Black, the Chief Administrative Officer for the District Commissioning Social Services Administrative Board, the DSAB second quarter operational overview report, April 1st through to June 30th, 2021, received for our information. 10E is a letter from Tanya Daniels, the City Clerk for the City of Brantford, looking for support for the Year of the Garden 2022, received on August the 27th for our information. 10F, it's a letter from Rob Ritchie, resident, regarding the transit route request, received on September the 1st, and that's received for information and referred on to the Commissioning Transit Committee. And lastly, a letter from Dan Taché, the president of D2 Management and Development, Taché Construction Incorporated, regarding the affordable, supportive, or transitional housing to help at the end help end homelessness, received on August the 27th. That's been referred to the Corporate Services Committee. So that's the correspondence. I got a motion be resolved that City Council agrees to deal with communication items 10A through 10G according to the agenda references. Do we mover, Councilor Whalen? Second by Councilor Furrier. Any comments? Any needs to be brought back for further discussion? If not, I'll call a question. All in favor?
Your Worship, I'd just like to make a recommendation that item G also gets sent to DSAB. Just, when we look at the letter and it really comes down to some of the housing pieces, I wouldn't mind getting some information. We talked a little bit about homelessness, tonight. I think it just might help with the information. Thanks.
We can amend that reference for sure. So, okay, that's great. All in favor of this motion? That is carried. Item number 11, the committees of council, community and regional. I got a motion be resolved that the following minutes be accepted for information. A, the minutes of the Age-Friendly Community meeting held on March the 2nd, 2021, and again on June the 1st, 2021. B is the minutes of the Bicycle Friendly Committee meeting held on January 21st, and another one on April the 19th, 2021. C is the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on July the 28th, 2021. D is the minutes of the District Commissioning Social Services Administrative Board meeting held on June the 16th, 2021. E is the minutes of the Niliskert Nonprofit Housing Corporation meetings held on January 27th, February 24th, March 24th, April 28th, May 26th, and June 23rd. 11F is the minutes of the Temiskaming Municipal Association executive meeting held on February the 11th, 2021. G is the minutes of the Splash Pad Committee meeting held on March the 4th and on August the 20th, 2021. And lastly, H is the minutes of the Joint Temiskaming Shores Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Niliskert Business Improvement Area Board of Management meeting that was held on July the 6th, 2021. So, any comments on any of those sets of minutes? We're moving to seconder. Moved by Councilor Furrier, second by Councilor Jelly. All in favor of that motion? That is carried. Item number 12 is the committees of council internal departments. And I got a motion be resolved the following minutes be accepted for information. A, the minutes of the Building Maintenance Committee meeting held on July the 28th, 2021. B is the minutes of the Corporate Services Committee meeting also held on July the 28th, 2021. C is the minutes of the Protection to Person and Property Committee meeting held on July 28th as well. D is the minutes of the Public Works Committee meeting also held on July 28th and again on August 23rd, 2021. And lastly, the minutes of the Temiskaming Transit Committee meeting that was held on July the 7th, 2021, and again on the special meeting on August the 20th, 2021. So, your mover and second that motion, Councilor MacArthur, second by Councilor Foley. Any comments on those minutes? All in favor? That is carried. Reports from members of council. Councilor Whalen, you had a report that you typed up there. You want to outline as well, or do you just want everybody to read that? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, everybody can read it, and I'll certainly answer any questions. I do have a follow-up to that, though, for our Public Works Committee. I'm wondering if council might allow, I don't see where we have the opportunity to restructure at a subcommittee level, but I'm wondering if council would consider a smaller committee to deal with the blue box transition to full producer responsibility. There's a long list of issues that have to be dealt with. And if we try to deal with it in our Public Works meetings, we're going to have 2 or 3 hour meetings rather than... So I think we should make a smaller meeting. Certainly our Director of Environmental Services, Steve Burnett, would need input from the Finance Committee as well as Service Manager, City Manager, because we currently operate the spoke system, and every municipality involved is going to have to make some decisions. So even though it's three years away, I think it's not too early to start on this. I have had discussions with Steve, included the city manager, and I think we need some sort of a structure where we can call on resources and get to work on this. So it's just something I'd like council to consider, because I don't see where we're allowed to do a structure like that. So,
could we, Chris, go ahead.
So we did do. It's been a long time, but when we originally looked at our landfill expansion for the New Western landfill, we set up what we called a TAC, a Technical Advisory Committee. So it was an ad hoc group that really just dealt with that one item, and so what Councillor Whalen's saying, rather than it being an item on a Public Works agenda that, we've got a lot of other items to get through, that we set up this sort of technical advisory committee that would help steer us in our discussions on the Blue Box program. So in speaking with Steve Burnett, he's more than willing to look at that and bring together all the resources we need if council so wishes to proceed that way. I think we can do it as an ad hoc committee with a very scoped agenda as far as looking just at the Blue Box program.
Do you see Steve and yourself making a presentation at the next Public Works meeting? So we setting that up? Would that be?
We can do that and then get a recommendation from that committee to set up a TAC or whatever we want to call it, a steering committee, an ad hoc steering committee or a technical advisory committee. We can do that at the next Public Works meeting and then have a recommendation to come back to council.
Okay, we can do that, sure. Yeah. Any other reports from members of council? Councillor Jelly first.
No, I don't have a report. It was just further to that comment. I think we did discuss that a little bit before, but we also got to think of continuity moving forward for the 3 years too. So, we do need a committee in place. I don't have any other report. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor MacArthur.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Kidd. Well, I, along with Danny, attended the annual AMO conference. It was out of London, Ontario. Obviously, it was a virtual from August 16th to 18th, and let me tell you, it was very interesting. A lot of great speakers. One was Sheila Watt-Kluche. She talked about the environmental, culture, human rights, and economic impacts of climate change in the Arctic. She said that outsiders tried to come in many years ago and try to change the people's lives, their hunting, their fishing, and all their cultural habits, and it turned many of them to using alcohol and drugs. Now they've taken back their land and their life. The Arctic is the world's air conditioner, but climate change is breaking down the Arctic every day. We also had a discussion given to us about conservation authorities for natural disasters like flooding, shoreline shrinking, and forest destruction. They're going to be working on watersheds, and we'll be meeting with CEOs and city managers down the road. Other topics of interest: clean air, electric cars, green development standings, innovative housing for our communities. the federal gas tax, municipal insurance increases, claims are rising. Are there ways of stopping them? Cracks in sidewalks, our buildings, what have we done lately? The cyber market is growing. Many cities must protect themselves. Bus patrol for safer buses for children. Minister Christine Elliott, she was talking about getting everybody with 2 needles. Also, 34 health units continue to work hard for everyone in Ontario, and they're going to need more dollars in 2022. 3,100 more hospital beds will be in Ontario, and $696 million in hospital care for more operations and procedures. Health teams are working very hard on this. I've got others, but we have a time limit on this, but it was very enjoyable, and I enjoyed our 2 meetings with ministers, with Danny, and we'll see what the results of those meetings come by down the road.
Thank you, sir. Any other reports? Just a couple of comments I'll make about the airport, and I haven't told my board about this. We got a board meeting in a week and a half or 2 weeks. But we did meet with the new owner of the large hangar there that was sold off by the township, so it has changed hands again. So we had a good meeting with him the other morning, and he's open to the possibility of if we need the terminal or some of the offices there, that may be available for us to lease. The actual space within the hangar, if we need space to lease there for plane coming in overnight or weekends, whatever, we may have that opportunity as well there. So it's a little more refreshing than the previous owner that basically priced themselves right out of the market as far as anybody utilizing that hangar and doing their own thing without even getting approval from the board of directors or the airport manager. So that's kind of refreshing there as well. We did get approved for up to $310,000 in COVID expense costs as well that I've applied for last week. I actually got to put the claim in for it last week, so we'll see what actually comes through to that. That may cover a lot of our reduction in our income coming in from COVID and the loss of travel and everything else there. So hopefully that'll look better on our balance sheet in the coming year as well. So it's a couple of good news stories for the airport. So any other reports? Any other no's and motions tonight? Councillor Hewitt, sorry.
Yeah, just a comment. Always great to hear that the airport's doing well, and big supporter. In regards to some of the comments that Councillor MacArthur mentioned, and as well as Councillor Whalen in regards to AMO and some of the topics, they all fall very well under the climate change. Some of them climate changes, you talked about the forestry, full producer responsibility, and I'm hoping that if an ad hoc committee is created in regards to the blue box, that it would, all communications would also be shared with the climate change committee. So there's a lot of crossovers there. It's a perfect fit.
Thank you very much. Any notice of motions tonight? Seeing none, we'll move right into the new business. 15A is support resolution to the rising cost of building materials for the city of Kitchener. Maybe I'm a little out of date because the price of lumber has come down recently, but I'll read the motion. Whereas the city of Kitchener adopted a resolution regarding the rising cost of building materials at their regular meeting on July the 12th, 2021. And whereas the prices of construction materials have seen dramatic increases during the pandemic, and whereas reports by Statistics Canada noted that the price of lumber increased by 68% between March 2020 and March 2021, while fabricated metal products and construction materials rose by 9%, and whereas the province of Ontario has seen an accelerated overall increase in demands for construction, and whereas the province of Ontario has deemed residential construction as essential activity during province-wide emergency declarations and stay-at-home orders, and whereas Kitchener City Council considers it a matter of public interest as the increase in rates and demand could result in unsustainable cost on the local construction industry, Therefore, be it resolved, the Council for the City of Twisting Shores hereby supports the City of Kitchener advocacy to the federal and provincial governments to review actions that could be taken to help mitigate or offset the impact related to the rising cost of building materials. And then a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Peter Bethlehem, Minister of Finance, and the Honourable Victor Fideli, Minister of Economic Development, the Honourable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs, Job Creation and Trade, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and the City of Kitchener. So, we're moving to Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Jelly. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15B, support resolution regarding the affordable housing crisis in Canada for the City of Woodstock. And the motion reads, whereas the City of Woodstock adopted a resolution regarding the current affordable housing crisis in Canada at their regular meeting of July 15, 2021. And whereas the current affordable housing crisis in Canada and the quality of life implications caused by addiction, drug and opioid use and mental health issues are impacting communities in Canada and around the world. And whereas citizens in many communities are alarmed by the increase in homelessness, needles discarded in public places, visible signs of illegal activities, and are disillusioned with the justice system response. And whereas policing and justice system is not the solution to homelessness and addiction or an effective use of public funds. And whereas public health initiatives and programs aimed at addiction are provided by multiple ministries and agencies and are clearly inadequate, and new long-term solutions are required. And whereas many of the programs and attempts from different agencies, government organizations, and ministries service providers have created a disjointed delivery system, now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the City of Twisting Shores hereby supports the City of Woodstock's call on the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, to bring together the Ministry of Attorney General, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services to immediately work together on both short and long-term solutions, complete with funding, take proper responsibility and action to address the affordable housing, homelessness, and addiction crisis. And this resolution be circulated to John Vantoff, the MVP for Mr. Cochrane, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and the City of Woodstock. So, we're moving a second for that motion. Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor MacArthur. Any comments? Councillor Whalen.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to rewrite City of Woodstock's resolution, but there's going to be another resolution coming on behalf of Phenom and AMO. We had a hour meeting with 8 ministries, and I think there was about 60 staff members there, where there was the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, Federation of Northern Ontario Municipal Association, Northern Ontario Service Deliverers Association, and many of our DSAB members as well. And the problem with this is we keep sending it to province and saying, fix this, but they never include all of our agencies. So this motion is going to say that, to follow up on our suggestion that the province create a committee, but the main members be members from the DSABs or Northern associations, because by the time it gets through the various ministries, we're just spinning our wheels, and we're back to dealing with one issue instead of all 3 issues combined. So keep that in mind, that that'll be coming as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other comments? All in favor of this motion? That is carried. 15C is support resolution for the building the early learning and child care system for the City of Toronto. And it reads, whereas the City of Toronto adopted a resolution regarding the early learning and child care system at their regular meeting of May 5th and 6th, 2021. Now therefore be resolved, the Council for the City of Twisting Shores hereby supports the City of Toronto in their support for building a system of early learning and child care services that are high quality, public and not-for-profit, affordable, inclusive, accessible for all families, while supporting a Canada-wide system of early learning and child care and Indigenous early learning and child care. And this resolution be circulated to the Association of Municipalities, the Ontario Municipal Association, the Social Services Administrative Association, and the City of Toronto. So we're moving a seconder for this motion. With Councillor Foley, seconder. So Councillor Jelly, discussion, comments? All in favor? That would be carried. 15D is a support resolution as well for the report of the Regional Solicitor on Court Services Annual Report 2020 regarding the Regional Municipality of York. And the motion reads, whereas the Regional Municipality of York discussed the Court Services Annual Report 2020 and requested the support from Ontario municipalities, and whereas the impacts of COVID-19 on municipally administered Provincial Offences Court have resulted in a higher volume of pending Provincial Offences Act trial matters, and whereas immediate regulatory and legislative changes are critical to delivering services to the public by putting in place the most modern, efficient, and effective justice system attainable, and whereas the proposed early resolution reforms in Bill 11177, a Stronger, Fairer Ontario Act, 2017 do not fully support the objectives of the Ministry of Attorney General pertaining to creating a modernized and efficient justice system. Now therefore be resolved that the Council of the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby requests the Attorney General of Ontario to halt the proclamation of the early resolution reforms included in Bill 177, Stronger, Fairer Ontario Act 2017, and to take immediate action to streamline and modernize this section of the legislation by making it easier and more convenient for the public and prosecutors to engage in resolution discussions, make it more effective and efficient by administering early resolution proceedings for Part 1 and Part 2 offenses in the Provincial Offences Court. And the Council requests the Attorney General of Ontario to enact changes to the Provincial Offences Act and any related regulations to permit the prosecutor and defendant or legal representative to agree at any stage in the process of proceeding to a resolution in writing for proceedings commenced under Part 1 and Part 2 of the Provincial Offences Act, and to permit the clerk of the court to register the court outcome immediately upon receipt of the written agreement without requiring an appearance before a justice of the peace. And that Council requests the Ministry of Transportation, in consultation with the ministries or municipalities, give consideration to suspend temporarily the imposition of demerit points for persons who pay their ticket in cases where they have no previous relevant convictions. Moving a second for that motion. Moved by Councillor Jelly, second by Councillor MacArthur. I'm going to let Councillor MacArthur read some of these pretty soon. So comments on this resolution? Councillor Jelly.
Not a great deal of comment. It's just this would certainly speed up our court system and make it a lot, I don't like to use the word transparent, but I mean, get them in, get them out, that's what everybody wants, and this can go a long way to speeding things up, hopefully cutting down the backlogs and keeping it cut down, so it's good.
Any other comments? All in favor of this motion? That would be carried. 15E is support resolution for the municipal recognition of September the 30th as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And the motion reads, whereas the AMO Board of Directors encourages members to recognize September 30th as National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, also known as Orange Shirt Day, and whereas the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released its final report on June the 2nd, 2015, which included 94 calls of action to redress the legacy of residential schools and advance the process of Canadian reconciliation. And whereas the recent discoveries of remains and unmarked graves across Canada have led to an increased calls for all levels of government to address the recommendation in the TRC's call to action, and whereas all Canadians and all orders of government have a role to play in reconciliation, and whereas recommendation number 80 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission called upon the federal government in collaboration with the Aboriginal peoples to establish as a statutory holiday, National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, to ensure the public commemoration of the history and legacy of residential schools remains a vital component of the reconciliation process. And whereas the federal government has announced September 30th as the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, a National Orange Shirt Day, therefore be resolved that the Council of the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby commits to recognizing September 30th as the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation by sharing the stories of residential school survivors, their families, and communities. Mover and second to that motion, Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Ferrier. Comments? All in favor? That would be carried. 15F is Memo 028, 2021 CS, Land Registry Update for a portion of Silver Center Road and the water line easement. And I got a motion be resolved, the council for the city of St. George acknowledge receipt of Memo 028, 2021 CS. The council acknowledges an application was filed at the Land Registry Office to correct the registered owner of part of Silver Center Road. The reference is Highway 567 on Plan 54R 4169. From the Ministry of Transportation to the Corporation of the City of St. George, and the council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to grant Cobalt Camp Refinery Limited an easement over parts 8, 9, 10, and 11 on Plan 54R 4169 for the maintenance and operation of an existing underground water pipeline for consideration at the September 7, 2021 regular council meeting. So, moving a second of that motion, Councilor Ferrier, and second by Councilor Jelly. Any comments? All in favor? That is carried. 15G is Memo 029, 2021 CS, the deeming bylaw for Daniel and Catherine Mainguy, 754 Latcher Street. And whereas the owners of 754 Latcher Street would like to merge lots on title through the adoption of a deeming bylaw in compliance with the Planning Act in order to create one property with one roll number. And whereas the owners have acknowledged that registration of the pending deeming bylaw on title will be at their expense. Now therefore be resolved, the council for the city of St. George hereby directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to deem Plan M82NB, Lot 173, Parcel 7818 SST, and Plan M82NB, Lot 172, Parcel 10322 SST, to no longer be plans of lots on a plan of subdivision. And further, the council hereby directs staff to prepare the necessary deeming bylaw for consideration at the September 7th regular council meeting tonight. So, moving to seconder, Council Foley, seconded by Council Hewitt. All in favor? That will be carried. 15H, Memo 030, 2021 CS, the deeming bylaw for CMEA Holdings Incorporated for 40 Armstrong Street. And the motion reads, whereas the owners of 40 Armstrong Street would like to merge lots on title through the adoption of a deeming bylaw in compliance with the Planning Act in order to create one property with one roll number. And whereas the owners have acknowledged that the registration of the pending deeming bylaw on title will be at their expense. Now therefore be resolved, the council for the city of St. George hereby directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to deem Plan M22NB, Lot 18, Parcel 8337 SST, Armstrong Street on the west side, and Plan M22NB, Lot 19, Parcel 24963 SST to no longer be lots on a plan of subdivision. And further, the council hereby directs staff to prepare the necessary deeming bylaw for consideration at the September 7th regular council meeting. So, we're moving a second to Councilor Jelly, seconded by Councilor Whalen. All in favor? That is carried. Item 15I, Memo 031, 2021, deeming bylaw for Nicholas Desmarais, 69 Carter Boulevard. And whereas the owners of 69 Carter Boulevard would like to merge lots on title through the adoption of a deeming bylaw in compliance with the Planning Act in order to create one property and one roll number. And whereas the owners have acknowledged that registration of the pending deeming bylaw on title would be at their expense. And now therefore be resolved, the council for the city of St. George hereby directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to deem Plan M52NB, lots 69 and 71, parcels 14366, 17352 SST to no longer be lots on a plan of subdivision. And further, the council hereby directs staff to prepare the necessary deeming bylaw for consideration at tonight's regular council meeting. So, moving to seconder for that motion, Councilor Ferrier, second by Councilor Jelly. All in favor? That is carried. 15J, Memo 016, 2021 PW, the Joyal Drive resurfacing. I have a motion tonight be resolved, the council for the city of St. George acknowledge receipt of Memo 016, 2021 PW. The council hereby approves the reinstatement of the Temiskaming transit route to Joyal Drive from Morissette Drive, conditionally upon the resurfacing of Joyal Drive in 2021. And the council hereby approves the resurfacing of Joyal Drive in the amount of $120,000 plus HST funded through the 2021 Roads Rehabilitation Program budget. So, we're moving a second to that motion, Councilor Jelly, second by Councilor Ferrier. Any comments? Yes, Councilor Ferrier?
Yeah, just a question. So it is in the 21 budget. Any idea if we approve this, when that would happen? Since we are already in September.
I have had some discussions with Miller Paving, so because they're doing some work out on 65 West, they have a pulverizer on site. MTO does not allow them to do work on weekends on a highway. So if council approves it, I'll be in touch with Millers tomorrow, and they'll sneak us in on a weekend at some point in September to get that work completed.
Thanks, Mitch.
Any other questions? Councilor Whalen?
Yeah, I'm sure every member of council's been down there and driven both streets and heard the presentation, so now that the motion is before council, I think we should thank the Transit Committee for taking this under reconsideration and doing what's best for everybody, so thank you for that.
Councilor Jelly?
The only thing I wanted to point out, and Mitch is here if he wants to elaborate, this is not increased money we're spending, it's already in the 2021 road rehabilitation budget, just so people don't think we've just pulled a straw and we're going to do another street. So, thank you.
Mitch?
That is correct, Doug. So we've seen some savings in this year's program for the simple reason that we had budgeted to put some gravel under most of those roads that we resurfaced. For the most part, the gravel was not required, so we did see some savings, and I think we're going to see some additional savings in next year's program for gravel usage.
Councilor MacArthur?
Yes, and I would like to thank the Public Works Committee for having this subject brought up and hearing what you had to say and what we were saying as the Transit Committee. And this was definitely a union of two councils, and I'm glad we're going ahead with this project.
Thank you, sir. I'll call the question. All in favor of this motion? That is carried. Hopefully that work will get done the next month. 15K, Memo 017, 2021 PW, the emergency culvert replacement for River Road, and I got a motion to be resolved to council for the city of St. to acknowledge receipt of Memo 017, 2021 PW for information purposes. Mitch, do you want to make any comment on that at all? I mean, it's a 6.5 foot diameter culvert, about 100 feet long that is going in the River Road there. It's a really deep ravine there.
So yeah, it is a 2,400 mil, or equivalent is about 7'8" diameter culvert. Unfortunately, it doesn't fall within the biannual bridge inspection, so if a culvert is over 3 meters in diameter, it would have been inspected every 2 years by engineers. Chris and I have had a discussion. We are now going to add that culvert to those biannual inspections going forward so that we don't get caught in this type of a situation again going forward.
Chris?
Not just that culvert, but there are a number of other, I would say, larger diameter culverts, but not defined under our bridge program as large diameter culverts. But I think it's in our best interest, given the cost of these repairs, that we add those into our biannual bridge inspection. The other thing is this, in accordance with the purchasing policy, so this was deemed an emergency repair because we actually had a failure, and so one of the requirements of that is to report back to council immediately after. So I did give the authorization for Mitch to go ahead, and so it is unbudgeted, but it was an emergency repair, and that's why we're reporting. It's for information purposes because we're reporting back under our purchasing policy.
So we will be closing River Road for a number of weeks, or 2 weeks, whenever the Pedersons get around to doing that.
Yeah, so we'll ensure that there's proper notification to the residents in the area and a proper detour is in place for those residents to be able to still access their properties.
Okay, good. Thank you. We're moving a second for this motion. Councilor Ferrier, second by Councilor Foley. Any last comment? All in favor? That is carried. 15L, and Mitch is going to give a verbal update on the bridge at Mort Landing Road.
So first of all, I'd like to apologize to council for not having information on this in the council package. This all came about pretty rapidly last week while I was away on holidays, and I was waiting on further information that just came in today on this. So as part of our biannual inspections last year, it was determined by the engineers that there were some structural integrity concerns with the bridge and further investigation was required. As part of the 2021 capital budget, council had approved some funding to do that further investigation of that bridge. On September 1st, which was last week, city staff received the final report on the inspection of the Mullet Landing Road Bridge. That bridge was constructed in 1974, if anybody was wondering. The structure consists of built-up timber beams that are spaced at approximately 34-inch centers with a laminated wood deck. It was determined as part of the investigation that until the necessary repairs have been completed on the bridge, that weight restrictions be imposed on the bridge. Last Friday, city staff posted the maximum weight limit for a triaxle at 13 tons. This basically means that currently no triaxle can cross the bridge with a load. Local contractors who own and operate gravel pits beyond the bridge have been notified, as well as school bus companies and other contractors impacted by the restrictions. The engineers from DM Wills have also indicated that if repairs are not completed before the winter season, that a plow truck will not be able to cross the bridge. We reached out to Miller Paving when we received the report. Miller Paving locally has a bridge division. We met on site with them, and today I did receive a quote from Miller's to do the repairs. It would be 4 weeks delivery on material and approximately 2 weeks to physically do the repairs. The price from Miller's received today is $166,387.50 plus applicable taxes. City staff are requesting that council approve these repairs as an emergency and sole source the repairs to Miller Paving Northern based on the quote received today. The main reason for sole sourcing is winter is fast approaching, and if there is a significant weather event, a plow, truck, or a sander will not be able to cross the bridge for maintenance. These repairs basically consist of supplying and installing steel beams as per the engineer's specs.
So these are full-length girders, one and the other underneath the...
There's a total of 10 steel beams that would require, total of 10 wooden beams that require a steel H-beam be installed.
Any comments? Chris?
The only other, so that road is, that is the main access out into First Brook and Bar Township. There is an alternate route in case you're wondering, but we're not recommending to use that as a temporary detour route. That would be, First Brook line is a detour route that would run out to Dump Road and take people out. But the bridge on First Brook Road is not really in the best of shape either, nor is the road base, so we really aren't recommending the use of First Brook line as an alternative road either.
So we would access through Hudson as a detour?
So that would be up to the contractors that have pits back there because they would have to get permission from Hudson Township. At this point, all the ones I've spoken to have basically shut down operations at their pits until further, until the repairs are done on the bridge.
Any comments?
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, I think it's an emergency situation. I think we need to get it repaired as quickly as possible. So I would make the motion that we move forward, with it. Like I said earlier, we're already in September, and it's going to take some time, for the equipment, to get there, and hopefully it does arrive and we get it fixed before the snow flies. So.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Foley? So you've got that drafted up roughly. Did you want to read it? Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, Mitch, what was 167,000?
166,000.
The exact number is $166,387.50 plus HST.
Okay, thank you. So the draft motion reads, be it resolved that council for the city of Temiskaming Shores hereby approves the emergency repair to the Mullet Landing Road Bridge per engineered specifications in the amount of $166,387.50 plus HST.
You're still in favor of that motion? Councillor Foley and Councillor Jelly, comment?
My comment is, do we need to have something in that motion about sole sourcing? I'm not sure how that works, just for clarity.
Yeah, so that waives the requirements of the purchasing policy for tendering the project out.
Because of the emergency?
Yeah, so for both the emergency and the fact that it's over 100,000, which requires council's approval, and your bylaw says that anything over 100,000 you will tender out, so you need to waive your purchasing policy in order, due to the fact that it's an emergency.
So I'll make those amendments to the motion. Any other comments? All in favor of that motion? That would be carried. 15M, the last new business, Memo 010-2021 RS, the Ontario Trillium Foundation, the Community Building Fund. We've got a motion to be resolved, the council for the City of St. George acknowledged receipt of Memo 010-2021 RS, and that council directs staff to submit an application to the Ontario Trillium Foundation in the Community Building Fund capital stream in the amount of $500,000 for the roof replacement project at the Waterfront Pool and Fitness Center. Moving a second of that motion, Councillor Whalen, second by Councillor Perrier. Any comments? All in favor? That would be carried. Okay, moving on in the bylaws, Resolution 2021-357, be resolved that bylaw 2021-125 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an easement agreement between Cobalt Camp Refinery Limited and the Corporation of the City of St. George. Bylaw 2021-126 being a bylaw to designate any plan of subdivision or part thereof that has been registered for 8 years or more, which shall be deemed as not a registered plan of subdivision for 754 Latcher Street. Bylaw 2021-127 being a bylaw to designate any plan of subdivision or part thereof that has been registered for 8 years or more, which shall be deemed as not a registered plan of subdivision for 40 Armstrong Street South. Bylaw 2021-128 being a bylaw to designate any plan of subdivision or part thereof that has been registered for 8 years or more, which shall be deemed as not a registered plan of subdivision for 69 Carter Boulevard. These four bylaws be introduced and given first and second readings. So, we're moving to second to Councillor Jelly, second to Councillor MacArthur. All in favor? That is carried. And resolution be resolved that bylaw 2021-125, 126, 127, and 128 be given third and final reading and be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto. Moved by Councillor Ferrier, second by Councillor Hewitt. All in favor? That is carried. Scheduled meetings. The next regular council meeting is Tuesday, September the 21st at 6 p.m. and the next regular meeting after that will be Tuesday, October the 5th at 6 p.m. So we reached our second question and answer period. Anybody got any questions of council at this point? Nothing on the chat line. Nothing. Going 3 times. Closed. We got a motion here to go into closed, and we're going to adjourn for 10 or 15 minutes before we go into before we come back into closed session. The motion reads, be resolved, the council agrees to convene in closed session at 8 o'clock to discuss the following matters. A, the adoption of the July 13, 2021 closed session minutes. B, under Section 239-2A of the Municipal Act 2001, the security of the property of the municipality, COVID-19 protocols for staff and the public at recreation facilities. C, under Section 239-2B of the Municipal Act 2001, the personal matter identifiable individual for labor relations. D, under Section 239-2C of the Municipal Act 2001, the proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality for 545 Lakeshore Road. And E, under Section 239-2F of the Municipal Act 2001, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purposes regarding the Integrity Commissioner. So we're moving to second of that motion. Councillor MacArthur, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Foley. All in favor? That is carried. We are adjourned for the next 13, 14 minutes.